Jackson gets poked hard by you-know-who. Kachuk.
McDavid scores! Game winner! Series winner! Cam Talbot and Mike Smith, they're going to go at center ice. This is the Battle of Alberta we've been waiting for 3 decades!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Fuel and Fire podcast. My name is Faiz Vergi. I am a contributor with the Oil Rig, and with me is also Joshua.
Yeah, I'm Josh. I'm with the Wind Column, covering the Calgary Flames, unfortunately.
That's a perfect intro in terms of, this is a Battle of Alberta podcast. And on Sunday, we had the second battle of the season, or as I like to think of it, the first actual one. The first one didn't actually happen, in my opinion. It was a win for the good guys, and I think actually based on our last talk, you're probably not too disappointed by it either.
No, I think based on our last discussion, I probably got some slack for being so negative on the Flames, but I mean, what can I say? Here we are a couple of weeks later, and the predictions are kind of right, because now the Oilers and the Flames are sitting on equal records, depending on how the game goes for the Flames tonight. But I think the Battle of Alberta round 2 was kind of exactly what we were talking about last time, and star talent wins games, and the Flames don't have much, and the Oilers do. And, Draisaitl puts up 3 points and kind of carries the Oilers along with McDavid out, and the Flames just didn't have the firepower to kind of keep up. I think they stuck in a lot longer than I thought they might have after they're down early. But yeah, I think the Oilers' talent at the end of the day shines through, and I think that's kind of going to be the story the rest of the way here. But I think, again, the Flames put up a good fight, which I think they've been doing a lot of this year, and that it's been impressive. But I think it's starting to catch up to them, where they're going to fight. They're not going to go down easy, but it's going to be hard to win more than lose with the amount of talent they have on their roster. It's definitely, promising to see them battle like the way they are so far.
Yeah, totally. I mean, listen, if you guys want to have those moral victories and give us the real victories, I'm more than happy with that, because I don't think my heart could have taken losing to a Calgary Flames team, generally speaking, and definitely not again this year. Draisaitl, I'm loving it, because I'm sure we all saw that tweet saying that Draisaitl is going to be exposed as a fraud with McDavid out, and 2 straight games having 3 points and coming out strong in each one. I mean, he's showing just how good he is. From the eye test, he's been amazing. So, I mean, I'm just so glad that they won, because otherwise it would have been a lot worse to be on this podcast today, I think. Granted, you're not as bad as some other Flames fans I know in terms of giving me some grief, but still, can't have that ammo available.
Yeah, it's always nice to beat the Oilers, even if you're on Team Tank. So to beat the Oilers is always fun. So those are the games where I'm rooting for a Flames dub. So it was nice to see the comeback there. But obviously, they couldn't pull it out in the end. But those are the few games a year where I'm fully on. All right, let's just win. Who cares about the draft pick? It's the Oilers. But yeah, fortunately, they couldn't pull it on this time. But maybe they'll get them next time if Draisaitl's also out injured along with McDavid. You never know. So
I mean, you shouldn't be putting that out there. I mean, that's really rude. I would say, what if Jonathan Huberdeau got hurt? But I think that might actually help you guys. So
yeah, then the Flames might be watchable. So
yeah. Oh, jeez. Well, I mean, we can talk about the eye test and whatnot. I think that's really where I focus on. But we have a guest from the Oil Rig with us who knows fancy stats, and his name's Darnell Holt, and again, he writes for the Oil Rig. So that's how he really knows what he's talking about. So welcome, Darnell. There you are.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm same with you, Faiz. Moral victories. I had enough of those during the decade of darkness that I never need to go back to those days. But that was quite a game there on Sunday night there.
Yeah, I like it. So, like I said, we brought you on for any of the stats that you've been following and trends and stuff. I don't know if it's just about that game or about the season in general for both teams. But what have you been seeing so far?
Yeah, like personally, I'm a big proponent of two advanced stat metrics. There's Corsi percentage. So that's technically just, it includes all shot attempts. So that's shots on goal, missed shots, shots that are blocked. So like for myself, like I interpret that as a big puck possession one, because if you're generating a lot of Corsi percentage, like if you're above 50%, so you're above that 1-to-1, you are definitely in control of the game because the puck's in the offensive zone, and you're honestly, and thank gosh for you don't have Evan Bouchard as a D-man sometimes, the puck's not in your defensive zone and there's no chance of it going in the net, especially with how the Oilers goaltending is played so far. The other one that I personally like to focus on is expected goals. So like there's a differential between expected goals and goals themselves, but essentially what expected goals measures, it's the chance of an unblocked shot attempting to be a goal. So there's three ranges that I like to compare to. So there's low danger chances, there's high danger chances, and medium danger chances, and the biggest one is that contributes in to expected goals is high danger chances. So just for layman's terms, like that's a shot that's got a greater than 20% probability of like finding the back of the net, and that's generally from what I like to call Hyman's home. So within 6 feet of the crease and within the blue paint, and that's also, I mean, why he leads to so many disallowed goals because he's right in everyone's face. But yeah, just from watching that game, like the Oilers themselves, Jeff Skinner, I have to admit, had quite a game in terms of the Oilers. Like he had an expected goals of half a goal, and obviously he contributed to the back of the net there with that stick backdoor tap in. And I mean, highlighting the Flames, Ryan Lomberg with had the greatest percentage of being on ice for shots for versus shots against. I mean, again, that's a small sample size of 8 minutes of ice time, but he was on for 85% of shots for versus 15% of shots against, and he was on the ice. So, hey, I mean, props to that fourth liner. He's quite the guy, quite the hairdo,
Okay.
I gotta say.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a greasy looking MF if I've ever seen one. But okay, so you said 85 for, 15 against, but it's 8 minutes of time. Like, what is the actual shot? Like, what are those raw numbers? Like, is that like three? I guess I can't do math, but like 3-1, 4-1.
12. It was 12 shots for versus 2 shots against. So essentially, when he was on the ice, he was either in front of the net or just he was generally playing in the offensive team zone. So it's if you're looking at a more, I don't want to say realistic option, but Andrei Kuzmenko, he was actually very productive in 16 minutes of ice time. He was on the ice for 25 shots for versus 8 shots against. So like obviously, like when you're down, that statistic's going to get skewed a little bit just because you're trying to generate as much offense as you can and throw as many shots as you can at the net, which is why it works so good in tandem with expected goals. Because relatively, like if you're just taking perimeter shots, yes, it's a great Corsi percentage because you're taking a great amount of shots at the net. But in terms of the actual chance of it going in the net, probably fairly low.
Yeah, I think you touched on Kuzmenko. I think he was one of the lone bright spots, one of the main bright spots for the Flames that game because he hasn't been his best this year. And I know coming into the season, there was some talk of him potentially signing an extension in Calgary, which I think a lot of us were kind of like a little cautious about just because he had a good end of the season last year, but so far he's been not the best. So it was nice to see him against the Oilers kind of be one of their better forwards and show what he can do, whether that's to boost his trade value or to help the Flames win down the line. But yeah, shout out to the Lamborghini, of course. He's one of the best parts of watching the Flames this year, even when they're not playing well. When you know you got the Lamborghini raring to go off the bench, that's always a nice positive sign, and he's an absolute character. So those are the guys. Like he's a perfect guy when you're on a rebuilding team who just kind of brings that energy and positivity. Like even if things are looking rough, he's just a fun guy to have around the team, and you know he can have nights like that where you know he actually plays pretty well. He's a perfect fourth liner energy guy, so it's nice to see him do well with the Flames. You know he may be a bit overpaid, but he's the type of guy who, you know, at this point when you're 20 mil under the cap, you don't really care what he's getting paid. He's just a fun guy to have around. So we need more of those guys in the Flames because Jonathan Huberdeau looks like a ghost most nights. So if he had the energy of Lamborghini, he'd have 150 points a year. So
Yeah, it's pretty cool that you touched on Huberdeau. So like, I mean, I know Zach Hyman has the unluckiest guy in the league moniker right now because he's only scored 2 goals for, and his expected goals actually at all strength is 6.5. So he's roughly 5 goals below what he actually should have totaled. But Huberdeau is what you would classify as the other end of the spectrum for the Flames. Like, technically, by expected goals, he's actually only should have about 2, and he's actually scored 5. So, like, he's 3 over what's expected. But again, that's also, like, the Oilers have a guy like that too, and Leon Draisaitl, who's stepped up in a big way. But by his expected goals, he should only have 4. But he's actually been able to find the holes or put it where the goalie isn't, and he's actually at 9. So, like, he's got 5 goals above expected, which is got to be on one of the higher end of the league, honestly, for that stat.
When it comes to that, though, like, do you find that with players who aren't considered to be goal scorers that you do see that skew? Like, I'm thinking about Matthews, Draisaitl, like guys who score goals that make you go, wow, that should not have gone in on a regular basis. Like, would that not skew their way generally, or is expected goals pretty, I don't know, pretty good on that regardless?
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's additional metrics that kind of take more into that account, like shooting talent above average. So, like, yes, you'll definitely say the guys like Draisaitl, McDavid, Matthews, like guys that are more of a gifted talent in terms of finding the back of the net. Whereas Hyman, you're going to go to the front of the net, you're going to crash and bang, and you're going to try and have it hit your shin pads or take one off the jaw as he did last year in the playoffs. So, like, you got the gritty guys that are definitely there to push the envelope to front of the net, and then you guys with the guys that will actually perform to a degree that it doesn't rationalize as much how it goes or how they perform, but that they're definitely finding the back of the net.
I have to say, I laughed at you calling Brian Lomberg Lamborghini just because the Oilers, back when they had Perlini, it was Lamborghini Perlini. So for a province with terrible roads, we seem to have a lot of sports car nicknames.
Yeah, shout out to Lamborghini. He's one of the only positives so far this season, I would say. And yeah, like you touched on Huberdeau too, it's kind of crazy that he's actually leading the Flames in goals right now. He only has 5 goals, but he's leading the team in goals. And like you said, it's kind of a lot of good luck right now that he even has 5 goals, which, yeah, kind of tells you all you need to know about the state of the Flames roster, that, his 5 goals lead the team, and he's actually lucky to even have 5 goals. And, so again, not to be so negative, but that's just kind of a point there where it's, even when Huberdeau's seems like he's kind of doing well, you kind of take a look at it behind the curtain and he's like, oh, well, he's actually getting pretty lucky, which, I mean, he does deserve a little bit of luck. He's kind of had some bad luck over the past couple of years, but so it's nice to see him get some bounces. It just, I wonder how long that will keep up. Feels like the percentages will probably even out, and that goal scoring will slow down pretty dramatically, I would think.
Yeah, it can definitely be a effect of regression. Like, for example, like as a team wide, the Oilers sit second in actually generating shot attempts for versus against in the whole league, sitting only behind Carolina, whereas the Flames are sitting 21st. So, like, there's definitely that puck luck metric that can go into contributing to greater amounts of greater amount of shots for versus against. And like, it's all the amount of statistics out there. Like, it's a really good way to compare the eye test versus the underlying metrics, and to find that common ground definitely contributes to a great understanding of the game and greater knowledge of scouting and player talent out there.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it really helps to kind of get a better backstory. Like, you look at the Oilers and the Flames on paper, and they're posting the same record, 6-5-1. Then you look at the underlying numbers, and the Oilers are up here, the Flames are all the way at the bottom. So it kind of helps you get a better understanding of where the teams realistically should be and likely will be by the end of the year, when you kind of peel back the curtain a bit and look at some of those underlying metrics. And whether it's bad luck for the Oilers or good luck for the Flames so far, it's probably going to even out. And I mean, we've seen that over the past week and a bit, where the Oilers have started to rise up and the Flames are doing the opposite. So yes, I think the percentages already are kind of starting to even out to what they should be.
Regression to the positive mean, I guess, as you could say in stats. But
Thanks so much, Darnell, for explaining fancy stats to me, because, I mean, you did a great job. I still don't really understand them, but I've got a better idea anyway. Thanks for
awesome.
that.
Thank you guys a lot for having me on. Very much appreciate it. Have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on.
Right. So basically what I heard from that is what we all knew, which is the Oilers are better than they look and the Flames are worse than they look. So
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the first couple weeks of the season. And I think that's kind of what we thought would happen at the end. Like, if you could only live off vibes for so long, like seasons like the 14-15 season with the Flames, where they regularly got caved in, but just found a way to win most nights and just rode those vibes for 6 months. Those happen once, every 10 years or so. Like, you can't pull that off all year. And the Flames managed to do that for the first week or so of the season, but it's starting to catch up to them, where for the Oilers, they just had bad luck. They couldn't get a bounce. And I mean, they're still having some bad luck. Zach Hyman, like Darnell mentioned, should really have, 5, 6, 7 goals by now. So eventually that's going to start evening out. And I think we're going to see exactly what we expected coming into the year, especially once McDavid's healthy and back and, feeding Hyman tap-ins in the crease. So that'll be good for his numbers.
yeah. And speaking of McDavid, there's the rumor that he's going to be back Saturday, which I don't know how I feel about that. I'd rather they don't rush him, but, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's always an interesting one with McDavid is, do the Oilers need to rush him back? And they kind of float off Draisaitl. Draisaitl gives me like major Evgeny Malkin vibes. There's those seasons where Sid would go down with a long-term injury and Malkin would come in and just win the Hart Trophy or win the Art Ross. And he can do it on his back. And I think Draisaitl is very much the same. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm the Oilers, I'm giving McDavid as long as he possibly needs to be completely 100%, because do they really need him in November? Not really. I mean, last year proved that they can turn it on at a moment's notice. So unless he's 110%, then you may as well sit him and just let him get healthy. Let Draisaitl carry the load, because, I mean, he's shown that he can obviously do that. So there's no point to rush him back.
I mean, Draisaitl, the one time he had to take over for McDavid, won the Hart and the Art Ross. So, I mean, I'm not too worried about him.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, it's very much like that Sid Malkin energy, where like when Sid's healthy, Malkin kind of takes a backseat. You don't realize how good he actually is. But, when that generational guy is out and then it's Draisaitl or Malkin, rising up to be the number one, you're like, oh, this guy's also an MVP caliber player. So, for the Flames, it's Jonathan Huber goes down, Anthony Mantha steps up in his place. So we're talking like very, very different levels here in terms of what you can do when top of your lineup gets injured.
Yeah, granted, if Huberto gets injured, I don't think Mantha has big shoes to fill. I guess maybe this season, but generally speaking, no.
I mean, Anthony Mantha might even be better than Jonathan Huberto at this point. Who knows? So there's you're kind of splitting hairs there.
So now comes our segment that we talked about. We're calling it the Fuel and Fire Bets. It's a segment where Josh and I make ridiculous bets against each other, and whoever loses those bets has to undertake some kind of punishment. This is a Battle of Alberta. There's got to be some fighting in here. And so, Josh, I don't know. I'll give it to you if you have any ideas for a good bet between, the Oilers and Flames. I know we don't have a Battle of Alberta for a long time, but any thoughts here?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on Hyman and Mantha earlier in the episode in terms of their numbers and some shooting luck. So I'll throw it out there that by the time the clock strikes 2025, so January 1st, Anthony Mantha will have more goals on the board than Hyman. So Mantha's at 4 right now. Hyman's at 2. So that'll be my hot take bet. Mantha has more goals than Hyman by January 1st, 2025. So just under 2 months from now.
I will gladly take that bet. I mean, if there was like almost a 10-goal difference at this point, I could see why you'd make that bet. But we're talking 2 goals, and I'm down for that. Let's go with that. So I think the punishment we had talked about, fuel and fire. We're talking about fire being like a chili pepper, hot wing or something. So what I propose is whoever's the loser. So if you're right and Mantha scores more goals, or I'm right and Hyman scores more goals, the loser has to eat as many wings or chili bites as the goal differential as of January 1. So are you willing to put your money where your mouth is literally here, man?
I'll do it. It's probably the worst decision of my life, counting on Anthony Mantha to do something, but yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. I think it'll reaffirm that Zach Hyman is a tap-in merchant. So if Mantha
I mean,
can
I don't care how he
outscore him,
I don't care how he gets them, man. As long as he gets it, I don't have to eat those chili peppers. I
yeah,
am A-okay.
that's
I
fair.
don't really feel like having to end the podcast early in early January to go see a man about, well, not a horse, but you know what I mean.
Yep, please, Anthony Mantha, I'm begging you, please.
Yeah, I mean, he did score a whopping, sorry, let me check, 3 goals last year in 18 games. So, he's off to a better start. You're gonna be fine, Josh. You're gonna be fine. You like spice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Maybe I'm just doing this because I know Mantha's gonna get killed, and I just like spice. So
This just in from our producer, Anthony Mantha got injured tonight, so Josh is looking good on this one.
all right, as long as Hyman only scores 1 goal in the next 2 months, I'm fine. It's all good.
This is getting you. I should have bet more. I should have bet money. All right, we're gonna get to our next segment, and we're basing on this clip. I've heard it, you've heard it, everyone and their dog has heard it. It was all over social media. And depending on what team you cheer for, you either loved it or hated it.
Dig in right now!
Yeah. So this is called the dig in segment. So as we all know, McDavid loves for his team to dig in. So we're each gonna mention a player on our team, so the Flames and the Oilers, and that needs to dig in right now. It needs to focus, get serious here. This is the finals. Dig in right now. So I'll kick it off. For me, for my pick from the Flames, I'm going to go with Daniil Miramanov. He needs to dig in. He was one of the main pieces coming back in the Hanifin trade last year. The hope was he could become a top 4 defenseman. He's been given lots of opportunity playing with Mackenzie Weegar in the top 4 many games, and he has not looked good. He's been scratched. He's been losing some minutes to guys like Bean or Pichel or Hanley. And that's not what the Flames need right now. They really need him to, at the very least, be a regular NHL defenseman. And he hasn't. So he needs to dig in and find that game, because the Flames blue line was completely gutted last year with Hanifin, Tanev, and Zadorov all leaving. And they need Miramanov to become a regular NHL defenseman. So yeah, he needs to dig in, or I don't see him being in Calgary for much longer than his current contract. So that's my pick for this segment broadcast. So
He's a defenseman, you said, right?
he is, yeah. He's trying.
I swear to God,
this.
I swear to God, on Sunday when I was watching, I saw him more up in the offensive zone than I did in the defensive zone, and thought this guy was a forward and was very confused.
Yeah, it can be hard to tell sometimes. He's kind of all over the place. He's got 1 point in 10 games, 1 assist. Like I said, he's been scratched. He's lost minutes to guys like Bean or Pichel or Tyson Barrie. Like the ghost of Tyson Barrie is beating him for a job some nights. So yeah, it's not pretty. I know it's still so early. He only has 30 games under his belt as a Flame, and he's relatively young at 27. This is his first time as full-time NHL defenseman for a full season. He didn't really get a lot of chance in Vegas, but he's been given a lot of opportunity in Calgary, and so far, hasn't looked good. So he's got to dig in.
I too, for the Oilers, will go with a defenseman, and it is obviously exactly who you think it's going to be, and it's Darnell Nurse. I'm a fan of Darnell Nurse. I bought his jersey earlier this year. Was it because it was on sale and I got it for like $100 and something, maybe? But I also too believe that he has it in him. I think his struggles are well known. Surprisingly, I mean, his points this year, he's got 5 points in 13 games, which is, not terrible. But I think, he's supposed to be, take aside the contract, which obviously plays a big part in it. But, if he was making even like $4 million right now, he's still not playing up to a good level. He's not what the Oilers need. I think he can get there. I mean, he's a -4 so far this year, and he hasn't been a minus player since 2020. So he's got it in him. If he can play better, and we've seen him play better with Kulak recently, and even to a certain extent Stetcher and Dermott, then that's huge. I think Darnell not Darnell Nurse, Darnell Holt, who was on the show earlier, mentioned Evan Bouchard. And, he's another guy who's been struggling. And, I would say he's the one who needs to dig in, but he is at home supporting him. He tends to have McDavid and Draisaitl and the best players supporting him. Darnell Nurse, I think, is someone who needs to step up and he needs to dig in. I think he needs to focus on defense personally. I think he's chewing his head about doing everything and being a $9 million defenseman. I think if he just focuses on defense, all of that will come, and I think he has the ability to, but yeah, he needs to dig in right now.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I think it wouldn't be a stretch to say the two worst contracts in the NHL are in Alberta, and that's Nurse and Huberdeau. So
yeah, I'm trying to think of one that's worse, and I'm kind of blanking right now. So it's unfortunate. But
yeah, that's a pain we can both share. But fortunately, it's much more painful for the Flames, who don't have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. So
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that I think takes us to the end of episode 2 of the Fuel and Fire podcast. Thanks to all the listeners, all of you who tuned in episode 1, gave us some feedback for our first podcast. It was great feedback. Really happy for that. And, please be sure to tune in to our next episode, and especially whichever one we have after January 1st, so you can watch Josh eat a whole lot of chilies on live camera. And, he might have to run off, but, I'm looking forward to it anyway.
yeah, Anthony Mantha, if you need a new knee or something, you can have mine, please.
All right. And, follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast.
Jack Hansen gets bucked hard by you-know-who. Kachuk.
McDavid scores! Game winner! Series winner! Cam Talbot and Mike Smith, they're going to go in center ice. This is the Battle of Alberta we've been waiting for.